Okay, so before I want to get to the discussion, I want to actually take a bit of time to watch a bit of two YouTube videos. I think let's start with one and see if I want to actually listen to the other one. Um, just to have some more um, I know that I try my best to talk about design approaches and whatnot, but I know that I'm not necessarily the best, especially because I kind of get stuck in the ways that I work more so. So I do want to take a second to kind of watch this level design approaches YouTube video that I think it
The
does
main
work
focus
a
here
lot with levels, but I think it is really good to kind of think about puzzles, and it's really talking more so about the process and how in depth these sorts of discussions and decisions need to be. Hi Mars. So I'm going to let me switch the stream, and then I'll switch the actual. So I'm gonna stream this. Let me change it in Discord here. We're gonna do this. Um, okay, OBS is good. Okay, can you guys see the YouTube video?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna start playing this, and I'm also gonna take notes on the side in the Miro. I have watched this already, but I'm gonna just do a little extra note taking to highlight some things, and then I do want to have a bit of a discussion as to how these concepts apply to what we're working on now. And yeah, also final note before we go into this is talking a lot more about solo development. It will definitely reference it as like you are the only person doing all this. Very obviously, we're not the only person doing all this. But it is good to kind of have this mindset when we are very much operating in an async sort of mindset, very individual, and then we come together. So I think it definitely still applies to the way that we're kind of handling things for this studio. So yeah.
is how to interpret the advice that you get on level design.
Actually, I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
The main focus here is how to interpret the advice that you get on level design as a game designer or a solo developer, because so much of the level design content out there is not presented in the context of you are making an indie game and you've made the game yourself and now you need to make the levels yourself. It is much more along the lines of preparing you to become a level designer at a AAA studio or something like that. And that's not very helpful for this channel or the audience of this channel. So yeah, I'll be talking about how to approach level design in your games. So as an indie developer, you're going to need to do these kind of things. You need to experiment with your game to establish what the level design requirements are in the first place before you do too much level design. You need to work out a top level content plan for your game's levels, and I'll give you an example of that is in another YouTube talk, because I think it's one of the best examples I've seen of someone talking about level design in the context of like being a solo developer and making their own game. And you need to sort of establish a strategy for sort of how what you're making in which order. These are all of the sorts of things that you need to think about as an indie developer. Side note before we start, although, you know,
I am going to skip this part. He's just talking about different ways you can actually go ahead and practice a level without going ahead and making a game. And it does involve kind of still making games, so we're doing that already. So I'm going to just skip ahead to this part.
These are common problems with level design content, and Dark Dax, sorry to pick on you. You have a very well produced channel, you're very entertaining, your videos are very well edited, and by and large you know what you're talking about. But this video, for example, is not about level design. It is a video that is about environmental art and the technical aspects of environmental art. It's about things like occlusion culling and not loading in things when they're behind doors. These 12 level design tips to optimize your indie game, they're very good tips, but they are not level design. Because a lot of us, when we first come to game development, we need to learn the technicals. We have this misinformation about what design is generally. People think that game design is technically building something in a game engine. And this video is an example of that applied to level design. They think level design is putting the things in the level editor or in the game engine, and it's not really, especially when it comes to the kind of art side of stuff. Level design is about the functionality and the gameplay. Art is about making it coherent and attractive. We've got an example of what some environmental art is over here. We've got an example of level design over here. And the point of this distinction that we make between doing an art stage and a greyboxing stage, the point of the process is to be methodical so that you don't create problems for yourself later on. If you make this environment and you beautify it before you've playtested it thoroughly, any kind of changes you need to make to that environment to move things around later on are going to become much more difficult because you're dealing with way more objects. You're just making your work harder for yourself in order to iterate on this later on if you need to change it. One of the most important rules in game development is that you want to keep your iteration cycles as short as possible. So anything that you do in your project that slows you down, changing things and improving them in some way, because, you know, either you've got an emotional attachment to the thing and you don't want to change it, or you've just added more objects and you need to physically move them. Whatever it is, anything that slows down your iteration process before you've got to the point where you know that the game is good and you are going to continue working on it is a problem. And that's a general game development principle. And the kind of grey boxing process is just that principle applied to level design. This is the kind of response that some of you are likely to be feeling to all of this, is that, you know, I have to do everything myself. I'm a solo developer or I'm in a small team. So there's no separation between these things. There's no separation between level design and environmental art, because when you're working on your own, you have to do everything. There's a really good talk by Lost Relic Games. Here he basically just talks about exactly what I've been describing, what happened to him when he put too much effort into the specifics of levels too early on and then had to go back and do everything again. There are also reasons why we do this. You need to work out the art style for your game and the pipelines anyway. You need to work out what a tree looks like. You need to work out what a rock looks like. So why not put it in a level? This is the kind of attitude that lots of us will have. And also, the other thing is that it's rewarding and keeps you motivated. This is not talked about so much, but it is very, very important for developers that are working alone, developers that don't have a manager or a producer breathing down their neck. You have to do things that keep you motivated. Be wary of what the balance is of things you're doing because they're enjoyable and things you're doing for the benefit of the project. So the way I try to work when I'm building one of my own games is maybe on like a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1 ratio of 2 or 3 things that the game needs and 1 thing that you're doing just for fun. But if that thing you're doing just for fun is causing these other problems, like, you know, you're prematurely polishing the thing and you're making a mess for yourself later on, then maybe do something else for fun. Any game is a combination of these 2 forces. It requires messy creative experimentation, and it requires strategic structured approaches. A game that is all massive creative experimentation will probably never get finished. And if it does get finished, it might end up being a total mess. And a game that is all strategic structured approaches with none of this messy creative stuff is likely to be dull, boring, have nothing unique about it, and just be a copy clone of something else. The good news is that
I'm gonna pause that right there. This is really why that statement right there, the creative messy experimentation balanced out with the strategic structured, is really why I like having these sort of think tanks, and definitely put a lot more emphasis on the messy experimentation with not as much structure, because we do already have a pretty set in stone structure as how this game should go. There is a method to the madness of just kind of being a little loose with these sorts of meetings and conversations that we have, and not being like kind of dug into your preconceptions and ideas of how things should go. I think I'm gonna also skip ahead for this part. I'm less worried about this. I do want to actually I'm gonna skip
Very
to the end.
structured approach to game.
He this part here, he's talking about something called beautiful corners or test rooms. It's basically the concept of when you're making a game, instead of trying to design all the levels to look beautiful and then make adjustments after you build out a tree and then you place it all the way around the level and then you realize I fucking hate this tree and then you have to redo the entire thing. He's talking about making test rooms or beautiful corners inside of game dev to like just get like a general understanding of what the game should look like on release, and then make like small edits before you actually like pull the trigger to kind of go forward. And that's also why we have the a little like workshop scenes and are just like going ahead and testing with different models and the different shaders and stuff like that. That's definitely the sort of direction we're going.
Game development has this, and it's about controlled mess, right? We get this quote from John Romero where he says, finish your first level last. We also know that this was how Mario was designed, so World 1-1 in Mario was the last thing they built. It's kind of presented as like a wise quote, but it is also just generally how sensible people design their games a lot of the time. Make the middle of the game and then make the things earlier on later on once you know what you need to onboard people into. This is just a kind of very established practice, very established approach. Ed Key made a mobile game called Hangline and has this really good talk on GDC. This graph you can see on the left here is what I would expect to see in the planning of any game with lots of levels. The environment down here on the left, so this is kind of your art variations. We've got a sand, warm, cool, warm, sand, cool. This is the stuff that stops your game looking visually boring because you can move through different environments. We've got a general level theme of like what is the dominant thing happening in this level. We've got the rising of difficulty here, and then we've got different features or gameplay mechanics that exist in the different levels. He's planned the entire thing out in terms of what is going to be in all of these things, and that gives you a sense of like the entire flow of the game in terms of going from one level to the next and making sure it's varied and stuff like this. This is a very systematic approach to how you decide what levels to make. I'm going to take you through John Romero's rules for making Doom levels, and what I want you to take away from this is not John Romero's rules for creating Doom levels are levels you should use in all level design. Most of the time, if you see John Romero's rules for level design presented to you on the internet, John Romero made Doom and Doom's really good, so follow his rules. That is not what I'm doing here. Instead, I'm trying to show you that being a game designer and making levels, there is a process there of determining what your own internal rules are for how your levels are made. And a couple of these are about art and technical art, and we'll go into why that is in a minute. So, number one, change floor height when changing floor textures. You'll remember old FPSs, very abstract, quite hard to see things if you don't pay attention to this kind of visual stuff. Number two, use special border textures between wall segments and doorways, so that basically so we can see the changes and we can see the geometry of the level properly. Be strict about texture alignment. This is more of a housekeeping thing, but here in Doom he's talking about basically it looks a bit crap if the textures aren't aligned. The kind of exception to this rule would be if you want to slightly highlight a secret door. So a secret door, you would unalign the textures slightly so that players can. There's a tell there. There's a way of knowing that there's a thing there that you can unhide. Use contrast everywhere. Light rooms versus dark rooms, open versus cramped rooms. This is level design advice that still gets repeated today and is still very, very common. And we'll think about why it is in a minute. Number 5, if a player can see outside, they should be able to get there. This feels more like almost like a professional pride thing of like, we don't want to create anything fake in our level. If you can see it, you can go there. Have several secret areas on every level. Make the level flow so the player will revisit areas to give a better understanding of it as a 3D space. Create easily recognizable landmarks in several places for easier navigation. Like I say, I'm not presenting these to you as universal rules of level design. every time you go out there and you seek advice or you seek some sort of guidelines on how to make levels, how to approach that information in future, because I'm not a level designer. I have done level design, but it's not my specialism. And you are going to go out there and you're going to pick up lots of different information from lots of different talks, and you need to have approach to how you process that information, because ultimately, if you're working on your own game and you're on your own, you're the leader there, and you need to behave like a leader and not a follower. And that's ultimately what being a design lead is about. It's about doing what John Romero is doing here and sort of defining the rules of the project so that the project can be consistent and the project can make sense. These rules that we get from John, if we think about, like, what design goals do they achieve? Well, some of them relate to making the player feel a sense of achievement and feel skillful. Some of them are to do with legibility and readability, right? Which is why a lot of the art things that he talks about are still game design things rather than art things per se, because they're to do with making sure you can navigate. There's interest versus boredom, giving moments of surprise, delight, and that kind of stuff. And then there's story and world building, which is very thin in Doom, but we can still think about some of his rules in terms of this. The rules of your game design, of which your level design is part of, should have player experience goals. You're doing a thing to make people feel a certain way, right? You're not just doing it because John Romero says so, or because I say so, or because Steve Lee says so. You're doing it because it achieves a particular player experience goal, right? People sometimes want me to kind of give them universal rules of thumb for game design and say, always do this or never do this. And sometimes that's down to educational background. Some people never get to go into an educational environment where they're told to have their own opinions about stuff. Some people's entire experience of being educated is being told things, being told what to think, being told the rules of something and expected to follow them. But that is not how art and design work. And it's not even how like something like computer science or engineering works. You have to have an approach. You have to have your own opinion about things. Be the person who makes the rules for your project rather than following other rules. It can be very helpful to constrain yourself with rules, but you sort of still need to understand why you're putting them in place. So there are no universal rules to game design. There are universally understood truths of human psychology, how humans think and how they perceive things. And when we talk about game design or level design and we talk about good practice, we're usually talking about those things. The only universal truths of game design are to do with human psychology and behavior. So when it comes to flow, this idea that players flow like water, it means they will try and go into every area of a level, but they don't turn 90-degree angles as they do that. They move like a car. They sort of twist and turn like that, right? It's almost like a version of loss aversion, right? We want to check out every nook and cranny. We don't want to miss out on an opportunity to find a particular treasure or a secret or something like that. And that creates this behavior of how we move around the space, right? So it's a thing of how we move around space that is driven by other behaviors in the game. If we had a game that had no collectibles, nothing to find, we might not move in this water-like, flow-like way, but we try and find every vantage point in the level and every corner of the game because we think there might be something there. If the game teaches people that there's never something there, they will stop behaving like this, right? This is where it starts to get really complex as well, is that as a solo developer, you are going to be dealing with the fact that level design is all of these things, or that a level is all of these things. A level in your game is a place, right? People perceive it as a place, like a simulation of a place in a world. It's also an experience. So what I mean by this is it is meant to give you emotions in a sequence, right? Which stem from things like there is a piece of combat, then there is a big silent area between encounters, and then there is another encounter, and then there is a puzzle. Like all of this kind of structuring of activities for the player to do. A level should have a goal, right? Players should know what they're trying to do when they go into a level. They're trying to get to that landmark, or they're trying to flee the enemies. That's a classic Half-Life one. They're trying to flee the enemies, and the goal should be obvious, but you sometimes hide the goal, right? So there's a landmark, and as I'm working my way towards the landmark, we hide it. and you lose the landmark for a little bit, and then you find it again and you feel relief, and then you lose the landmark again and then you find it again and you feel relief. That's the kind of thing that you have to think about when you're thinking about your level as an experience, rather than just like a place with some art in it, you know? And then the last point is that, you know, like all game design, is that what you are creating is a language. So if the thing is inconsistent with itself, or if it doesn't follow enough conventions of what people are used to from game design or from level design, then it will confuse people, right? The intention of this slide is really to empathize with you. If you're working on your own or in a very small team, is that this is the challenges that is in front of you when you sit down to do any sort of level design. And one of the reasons why we tend to err on the side of making sort of relatively abstract sci-fi and dungeon-based fantasy and stuff, we don't have to think about how this place functions as a representation of a real world. We don't have to think about where the toilet is in the dungeon. We don't have to think about where the HR department works in the spaceship and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons why certain genres are just more practical for a game developer, because we can kind of rule this out. But even then, you have to think of your level as a kind of series of experiences that are structured in a particular way, and as a language that players need to understand, because you're usually going to be expecting players to do the same thing over and over again. And if you break the pattern in ways that is kind of frustrating or confusing, then you're upsetting people. Here we've got some examples of how a level designer approaches stairs. I'm not showing you this to...
I'm gonna just pause right there to just highlight he's basically just pointing out that we should be using either real world constructs that people who don't play video games can kind of just understand inherently. And he pointed out that city as like, we don't necessarily need to describe to people where different things are. People will be able to kind of navigate inherently what things would be. He did talk about toilets in the HR department, but I'm like, let's just say we're in a house. You know, we put a house in front of a player. The player is going to assume that there's a front door. And go looking for that. You go into the front door, and then ideally you're assuming that there will be a kitchen, a living room, a bedroom, and a bathroom, just right off the top of my head. And they will be able to generally navigate and expect to see those things. But if we decide to build a level with a house, and as soon as you walk in through the front door, you're in the garage, that is going to throw people off, you know? Or all of a sudden you are walking in an alien house that is upside down. Like, it's going to throw people off, and therefore, if we're going to work in that sort of direction, we have to hold the player's hand a bit more and not just assume that they're going to have those general assumptions. But the cool thing about being able to build off of real-world constructs is that we can go ahead and lean on the general assumptions that a player can make based off of their real-world experience, therefore making our jobs a bit easier. Like, we should definitely lean more on real-world concepts before we start making interactions that are a little bit more obscure and out there.
I wanted to add to this in a way that I feel would be unique and necessary. So, on the topic of real-world concepts, so I read a thing one time, and it was concerning essentially the effect that McDonald's has on people's psychology. So by that, I mean, if you're traveling abroad, there will be a McDonald's most every place you go. People, they might not expect that to be the case, but it shows up, it's convenient, it's homely, it reminds you, if you're feeling homesick, of where you came from, because there's a McDonald's there too. So I got to thinking, and I thought, what would a McDonald's in a video game look like if it had the same effect? And I didn't think of it as, okay, just make a literal McDonald's, you know, chairs, tables, back of house. No. A McDonald's in a video game, something that functions the same as a McDonald's in a video game to me, is an arrow sign. So, you know, you have a classic wooden sign painted with an arrow on it. Another thing that does that is a checkered flag, black and white. kind of universal symbols throughout games almost, and I feel like those are just really helpful also for either pulling players in or getting them to stay with your premise, because these things are universally familiar to people who play video games, and even they might have some influence outside of video games themselves, these familiar items and objects.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point because it's not even again it's pointing out not necessarily real world things but like sort of the video game like tropes. There was a period of time with video games where there was a discussion about the yellow paint, especially for like the more cinematic sort of like AAA games. I'm thinking of like God of War and fucking the big monster one. What was it? God, like the mechanical monster. Anyways,
Here's
just a bunch of like I'm also thinking like Tomb Raider and stuff where like if you have a place you need to like jump to or cling on to, there would be just a little yellow paint just to highlight that that's where you're supposed to go next. Just little things like that that do help our gamers. I definitely lean a bit more towards a general audience. I don't like to assume that my players are people who play video games consistently, just because therefore it makes it a bit more approachable for the general audience. But it is good to point out that there are other video game tropes that we can also follow with. But yeah, okay, and then this part I think is really important because it is talking about actually laying out levels and thinking about how a player would navigate a space before we even start putting interactions and other objects in there. So yeah, let's move forward.
To show you how to do stairs, I'm showing it to you to show you how much thought goes into stairs when you're designing levels. So in this example, you go up there and you go up there and you're always sort of going into the new section blind. So as you run down the stairs, you enter the new room and you see everything. Whereas what's happening here, in this last room when I come into it, I don't go down the stairs until I've used this vantage point, right? So if we look at the difference between here and here, this is you just run blind into the room as you come down the stairs. This is you come into the room and then you have the option to go down the stairs or to use the vantage point to look around. This is just an example of like how many points of consideration there are in something as simple as how do I use stairs in my game? How do we make it so that you can see stairs when you're approaching them? Well, it can be hard to see them from a distance, so we want to telegraph them up front. We want to have them sticking out a little bit like these ladders or these stairs here. Again, you're kind of creating your own set of internal rules of how you use an element. Coming back to the general point of this talk, whenever you see this kind of stuff, like a tip or a set of rules for something in level design, it's really helpful. Absorb it, use it, but remember that on your game, you're probably the lead programmer and the lead level designer and all this thing. And that means that your job is to think like the person who made this guide. Your job is to think like John Romero when he was making his list of 8 rules for level design. Your job is to come up with the rules of your game so that your game can be consistent and easy for people to understand. And I appreciate you all, and thank you for joining and listening to me ramble about these things. And remember, one day you'll make something good. Maybe.
That last bit had me fucking cackling when I was listening to it. I was just like, I was at my work and just listening to it. It was like, one day you'll make something good. Maybe. Shit. All right. I think so. Maybe. We'll see.
Keep your expectations low so you can't disappoint yourself.
Exactly. The classic game design nihilism. We love it. We love to see it. Okay, there is the second video that I do want to watch as well. I definitely don't want to watch the full thing, but there is a good point in this, good part of this that I do want to get to. What we're doing, yeah, ideation. Yeah, like, so basically he talks about, he's talking about like using your personal life experiences as a point of inspiration, basically like doing your jobs, you know, like he was talking about babysitting or doing like retail or, you know, like I don't know, working at a bakery, and then kind of working from there and trying to make games and interactions based off of that. And then what was this one?
Do is looking at non-games for ideas for how to design interactions in your game. It's probably best here for me to start off with some examples. Brains is a kingdom management simulator where
he's talking about using like Tinder and other things that might not be as gamified, but they could be more so. And then he also brought up Angry Birds, where the slingshot is just like a general concept that people
because the slingshot
understand.
is an object from the real world that physically behaves in a certain way. And the same sort of cross-pollination can, of course, happen with non-digital games inspiring digital games. Like Among Us is very similar to the social deduction game Werewolf or Mafia, but with some extra steps added into.
So that's kind of like leaning into what I was already talking about of like the real world interactions and explanations that people already have a general understanding with, and then expanding on it. I am going to jump to here.
Do it, but this is to start with your own limitations. Try and rule out ideas that come in that do not fit with that. When people are really new to the craft of games, they go over the top with the scope of what they're trying to do. Because when people are novices at things, they don't know what they don't know. So they have ideas that basically are unachievable for them at their current level. And even when people have made dozens and dozens of games, it's often beneficial for them to think in this way, starting from the point of view of what do I know I can do, what can't I do, and what's sort of in the middle. Now, a skills audit is a process of kind of sitting down and thinking about that and thinking about what you're capable of doing. And it's sort of like working out what resources you have for a project. You might have an artist, but not someone who can animate a walk cycle, and that means you can make a game that has portraits of characters talking, but not characters walking around. If that was one of your constraints, it might actually push you down a road where you ideate around concepts that are actually more unique and interesting. The first time you think about it, you might think, well, that's terrible, I have to have animated characters in my game, but Dredge doesn't, and that has sold more than 1 million copies, and Mini Metro doesn't have any characters in, not even portraits, and that sold more than 5 million copies. Setting restrictions on what sort of ideas you take seriously and really start to develop can help you cut out 90% of ideas. Then you're just left with the ideas you can actually execute, and you can start to think of variations on those. If we know it's easier to make a game with a boat than a game with a human that walks, then what are all the different ideas that could use a game with a boat? And going back to points 1 and 2, if you have personal experience of boats and sailing and the culture around boats, then you're now in a position where you've got an unfair advantage, and you can have better ideas in that area than other people might. Number 4 is something I'm going to call find the fun and then retheme. Sometimes games do start with a IP. They start with characters and a story and all of that side of things. And some games start the other way round. They start with mechanics and systems, and then things like world building and characterization is layered in later on. In most cases, we generally feel like mechanics and story should reinforce each other, at least to the degree that the setting and story make the game easier to understand and play. And one of the ways to make sure that your mechanics and your theme are coherent is when you're developing your gameplay to not be too wedded to your theme, to not be too precious or against the idea of changing what your game is fundamentally supposed to be about, because it might emerge while you're developing it that a certain thing is more fun than another thing. A fantastic real example of this is the game Ape Out. Now, the developer Gabe Cozillo started off making a top-down ninja-based stealth game, but as he was developing it, he found out that the mechanics of grabbing characters and pushing them were really fun to play around with. It made more sense if the player character was a big, heavy, strong thing, and the opponents were smaller, weaker things with ranged attacks. Curzilo had an initial idea, started developing it, focused on the gameplay, and then when he saw interactions that were fun, he tried to make them bigger and more prominent, and then changed the theming and the setting and the character to accommodate that more. Through that process, he was able to leave behind a pretty uninspired ninja game that might have gone completely under the radar, and instead he made the best ultra-violent jazz-driven guerrilla game of 2019. Number 5 on my list is to fix a perceived problem with a genre or with a type.
Sorry, what? Say it again?
Is he talking about Gorilla Tag?
No, he was talking about Ape Out. It's a different game. Different game. Although Gorilla Tag is fun, it's definitely not the same as Ape Out. I think also Gorilla Tag is one of those things where they I think Gorilla Tag was more so developed in the way that it was as more of like a test thing, because VR games weren't as popular. Like there wasn't as much like development done for them, so therefore finding out the concept of literally launching yourself off the ground and flying through the air and acting like a fucking monkey, and that was fun. So I think it is. I think Gorilla Tag also kind of does fit that thing of like finding the fun and just kind of working with it. I believe, is just my observation and understanding as a developer, is that I believe that they went ahead and were just fucking around with the controls of VR and then felt like a monkey and then named it Gorilla Tag and made a whole thing from it. So and that's exactly what he's kind of talking about.
Of game. Warcraft 3 was special when it came out of 2019. Number 5 on my list is to fix a perceived problem with a genre or with a type of game. Warcraft 3 was special when it came out because it was the first real-time strategy game to have such a strong emphasis on characters and story, really. And when George Tan designed Plants vs Zombies, he was trying to solve the problem of how do you make an ultra casual tower defense game that is basically marketed to people who've never played a tower defense game. These are examples of designing around some sort of perceived problem, which is what happens in most design fields outside of games as well. How do I make a chair that looks unique? How do I make a car that's more efficient? Design problem doesn't need to aim to make something world-changing, but it can be really helpful to have one because, again, it will help you narrow down and focus what you're looking for. For example, take a genre that you don't like and try to figure out what you would need to change in order for you to like a game in that genre. Maybe it could use more simplicity in one area and more complexity in another. Maybe it just needs a change of tone or a retheme and a different kind of setting. You don't have to know the solution from the beginning, that's not the point, but making some kind of problem statement can be a really good way to come up with unique ideas for different takes on a type of game. Also, whatever problem you identify at this stage can help to orient the game towards a underserved target market. I know this all sounds a bit dry and businessy, but if you are imagining people who might enjoy this type of game but they need it to be more complex or more relaxing or whatever, then you're already in a good place for your marketing because you know how to describe the unique appeal of what you're designing. Designing with a problem in mind can be really helpful. It's a good introduction to general design thinking, which can be used in other industries, and in indie games it's another way to make sure that the ideas you come up with actually have some merit to them and aren't just a copy of something else. Number 6 is to try and write down your ideas as a single sentence pitch. It basically starts with you thinking of what your goal is in the game and then describing it and a couple of the actions that you do in the game. If you can't describe those things, you don't really have a game idea. For example, if I told you I want to make a game about teenage superheroes, I haven't said anything about the gameplay there. All I've told you is a setting. Thinking in terms of broad themes can be helpful at certain points of the project, but we're here to learn game design, and that means thinking about what the player is actually doing. Your player needs to understand the overall goal of what their player character is trying to do in the game world, and then a few examples of the actions they do to achieve that. So for example, in Into the Breach, My overall goal is to save the human cities. Some of the actions I take to achieve that are to destroy the kaiju and to upgrade my mechs so that I'm better at destroying the kaiju.
Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
In Stardew Valley, my goal is to try and create a prospering farm. Some of the actions I can take in order to achieve that goal are to raise livestock, to grow crops, and to befriend the townsfolk. Those games have more elements than that, and I'm sure your game ideas will have more elements than that. But the point is, if you can't write a single sentence that describes the main goal and some of the actions that the player will be doing most of the time, then you probably don't really have a game idea. You have a story or a setting idea. If you can't describe your games in terms of a goal and a few actions that you take to try and meet the goal, then you're more likely to get confused when you start trying to develop that game and not know what to focus on and just jumping here and there between developing mechanics and systems without the game really having a core appeal. Once you've cracked this format, you can probably sit down and write down every game idea you've ever had in a long list, and then see which ones of them actually have enough to them to be worth pursuing. The purpose of this exercise is it's kind of sorting wheat from chaff. It's letting you know which of your game ideas are actually ideas for games, and which ones are just vague ideas about a story. But another additional reason why it's good to practice describing gameplay in this kind of concise and very structured way is that it is often how games are described in marketing copy. And if your ultimate goal is to be a self-employed indie developer, then that's one of the many hats that you have to wear, is the marketing copywriter. Ugh. Number 7 on my list is designing for moments. Now, if you're a nerd like me, you probably have a favorite board game designer, and one of my favorite board game designers is Eric Lang. He's made a lot of very drama-driven, beautiful board games with lots of big pieces, and he's also made the board game translations of lots of video games. He basically says that he tries to design for memorable moments. So he would imagine some gamers in a game store talking to each other about a game, and one of them is recounting what happened in their playthrough, and he thinks of what those exciting descriptions would be like and then tries to design the game that creates those memories. Now, that might sound a bit wishy-washy, but it is a brilliant example of what people refer to as player-centered design or experience-focused design. You're not making a game to satisfy your own curiosity about learning a game engine. You can do that, but if you're here to make games that other people want to play, then you need to focus on their experience. You can put any amount of game mechanics or any amount of content into a game, variations in weapons and levels and resources or whatever. But if your game isn't generating those memorable moments, then people are going to forget it. Players will love or leave your game based on whether it generates those kind of memorable moments for them, whether they're playing it alone or with other people. And I'm adding this to the list because it might be a way of thinking that is quite new to you. Some of the techniques I gave you earlier on in the list, like drawing from your own experience, are designer-centered approaches. But when you're coming up with ideas, or when you're sorting through your existing ideas and trying to work out which ones are good, this player-centric approach can be really helpful. And if you're sitting staring at a document that has 10 games that you want to make in it and you're trying to pick one, maybe the one where you can imagine the joy that players will get out of it or how it will make them feel is the best one to pursue. We're nearly at the end of this list, and so far the previous 7 techniques have all been things that I've used myself or that I've seen work in industry or that I've seen. Scamper is you can use it with a idea you're already working on to try and get unstuck and to improve elements of it or make it more interesting in general. Or you can use it to generate totally new ideas, often by starting with a game you like. Scamper isn't specifically for games, it's a general design practice, but bear with me and let's see if we can get it to work. So the S in Scamper stands for substitute, and this is simply taking one part of the thing and replacing it with something else. So it could be retheming a game to be a different thing, or it could be taking one mechanic out and replacing it with something else. It's kind of self-explanatory. The C in Scamper is for combine. It's kind of down to you how you do this, but you could be combining two genres together, probably end up with a game that's too complicated to make, but it's one example. But there are ways of combining things in games that actually streamline them and make them more elegant. For example, what about a game where experience points and gold are basically the same currency? Oh, hang on, that's all of the Dark Souls games. A is for adapt. Adapting a game means imagining it being used for a different purpose or in a different context. I think an interesting example here would be, how do you take a horror game like Resident Evil and make it age appropriate for younger kids, but keep the general approach to scaring people the same? M is for modify, but to be honest, most of the things on this list are modifications, so I find that letter a bit of a problem. The other thing people sometimes substitute here is magnify, which is a very helpful concept in game design. Magnify is a bit like the ape out example I gave earlier, where the developer saw that grabbing and pushing were fun, so they made that the whole game. It's kind of zooming in on one element of the game design, excluding the stuff that isn't as fun and putting the emphasis on what is fun, or at least what is interesting. Magnifying one element of the experience isn't just about gameplay, it can have thematic and storytelling and emotional reasons as well. For example, if you're making a game where a vampire is the hero, you might want to minimize how much time the player spends sucking blood and instead focus on the innate vulnerability of the vampire and the fact that they burst into flames when they go out in the sun. It could just be an entire game about avoiding sunlight instead of all of the different aspects of being a vampire. P is for purpose, or for put to another use. Imagine the thing you're designing being used for something other than entertainment. Like, could your game function as a piece of educational material or as something that's cathartic or therapeutic for people? When you do imagine it in that context, does that influence what parts of the design you find interesting? Now, I think the P is quite hard to implement for most of us, because I think most of us making indie games just want to make a fun game. But if you do have broader aspirations of making a game that is art, or making a game that is a accurate historical record of a particular time or place, then this is definitely worth thinking about. What if your game ended up in a classroom? How does that change how you think about it as you're making it? E is for eliminate, or the baby brother of eliminate, which is minimize, the opposite of maximize. So what am I reducing in my design so that players can focus on other things? Grand Theft Auto would be a very different game if I had to serve all my prison time in that game in real time. The time that the characters spend in jail is a minimized element of the game because it doesn't serve the core fantasy of running around doing crimes like a maniac. To use the eliminate/minimize tool, you could generate a bunch of game ideas that are basically the title of a game and the word without, and then what you're taking out of the game. Skyrim without magic, Fortnite without building, a platformer without saving or lives, so on. I will go on and on and on about minimalism on this channel, but I think if you're making indie games, particularly if you're making one on your own, then this way of thinking is really important to lock into, because taking stuff out can end up with a game that is more interesting than what you were trying to do, and it can also make your game easier to make. For example, think of inventory systems. Okay, it might be unrealistic to have a Mario-style inventory system where you can only carry one backup item, but at the same time, it might lead to way more interesting decisions about which item I drop and which item I pick up at any given time.
Two things. What I think of when he's talking about taking a game or like a concept and then adding to it was Metroidvania with friends, or with friend at this point. And then actually he was just talking about inventory, and when I was developing, I just made the decision to just start with one item in our inventory for each player, and that does make interesting decisions. We don't have 10 inventory slots to go ahead and work with. We also currently don't have fucking gold. It was or like currency. That's the word. Which also means that we're not necessarily worrying about dealing with economy stuff. It's very much like when the player gets to a point to progress, we give them that, and they don't have to like prove their worth. Little limitations like that is kind of what we've been working on, and we'll kind of continue to work on, but we'll need to be thinking about going forward so that we're not just overscoping and trying to design so many other concepts that don't work with those sorts of limitations. I'm gonna let him keep talking.
R is for rearrange or reverse, which is reasonably self-explanatory. What happens if we put the elements of this thing in a different order? What if we swap them around? Thematically, it could mean what if the player is given a different role from what they usually have in this kind of fantasy? For example, if the player is made into a villain in a genre where they would normally be playing as a hero. You could also think about starting a story in an unusual place, like with an elderly hero, for example. And as always, this doesn't have to just be about the theme. You could think about rearranging mechanics and using mechanics in strange orders that they're not usually used in, although I can't really work out an example of how you do that right now because I'm very tired. So there you have it, 8 different ways that you can...
Okay, cool. So, that's pretty much what I've been doing a lot more thinking and sort of research, obviously, as to like how I definitely want to start moving forward in our design. And also, like I said at the beginning, I don't necessarily always have the right words to kind of talk about this stuff, so thank you for sitting with me and watching these. I do want to just go through and highlight a couple things in both of those videos that I feel are very important for us to focus on as we go forward, and then we can start having more of a conversation about really building out our kind of rule set for designing levels and puzzles and abilities. So first and foremost, we're totally going to finish our first level last. We are not going to worry about tutorial stuff right now because we're still really trying to find the fun. We are currently in the place where we have a general understanding of the constraints and the expectation of the genre that we're working with, and sort of the sort of passive gameplay loop with the hearts and the different realms and all of that. We've already kind of decided that, and now we need to go ahead and expand on that and play with it so that we can start really developing our kind of like rules list that we can refer back to when we're starting to design different levels. Huge thing is instead of just thinking about how we're gonna just have like put a problem in front of our players and have them solve it. I definitely want to emphasize, especially because of the type of game we're making, we are doing a thing to make people feel a certain way. What is the end goal? What is the end emotion? What is the end sort of like interaction and or moment of collaboration, especially that we want to have between our players, that inside of that puzzle. It's not just what buttons do we have to press to open the door, what little enemies do we have to fight to progress, what maze do we go through, what are the actual emotions that we're trying to evoke out of the player at any given moment. And I think that is the first and foremost thing that we should just collectively be thinking about when designing any sort of encounter going forward, because especially this game is very focused on I like to call it the emotional like a Metroidvania experience. It's like a discussion on relationships, and we need to very much think about that first. This is not necessarily mechanics first sort of game, it's an experience first sort of game. On that note, I'm actually going to switch my screen over to Miro because I wrote these down. Let me do that on OBS. So just highlighting that. And then also universal truths of game design or human psychology, just kind of thinking about how people think. You don't need to worry about what other people think the best ways to make games are. We need to think about how people are going to interact with our things. And then using real world concepts. And I did talk about that. And then also a couple things that are very much like definitely focused for us is what are our limitations? Who is actually here working on things? Who is actually implementing things and whatnot and has time? That is a huge thing for us. And something that I've been readily aware of at the very beginning of like, it is, we are very much not getting paid for this, so therefore not everybody's going to be available at any given time. So just kind of working with the very bare minimum of what we know we have. Find the fun is a huge thing for me of like, I really hate kind of writing things all out on paper and sitting and saying, all right, this is exactly how it's supposed to be, let's go do it. We are definitely at the fun part. We are, or not the fun necessarily, I did write about it, but I feel like we're more at the sort of like what's interesting to us, and what is more thought-provoking for us to actually work on going forward, and then we're going to go ahead and implement it in the actual game and then magnify those fun points. And then I did highlight some other things that he was talking about, but another thing I really enjoy the concept of is designing for moments. Thinking about how people are going to talk about the game and the levels and the way they interact with things after the fact. If they're just like hanging out with their friends and they're like, you know, I just played this game, whatever we call it, Heart Shatter, whatever, that just like had this crazy moment with my friend where it's like, you know, and I have some definitely like memorable moments, especially with It Takes Two, with the people that I've played it with, where it was just thinking about and realizing how they interact with things in a way that I wouldn't necessarily think of. And I think that's something that I've always really enjoyed about two-player games, is it not only forces you to kind of think more about yourself and how you engage with the world and communicate, but also learning to kind of listen to others and understand how they interact with the world and engage with it. And I very much enjoy that. So... yeah. Okay, any statements or questions about that? About like any discussion on what we just talked about? I see that Roz had to go. I will give her kind of a prompt. I do want to see what her ideas were.
So, humans move like water. I might have an interpretation on that. Also, someone else reading it is not going to remember the specific conveyance that the original author wanted to embody with that statement. So when you say humans move, you're referring to the fact that humans who play video games want their experience playing said games to be like running water. So there should be a flow of, I guess, gameplay at bare minimum, and beyond gameplay, it should be good. Like, it should be a continuous, fluid motion of good feelings when playing the game, because partly due to the fact of using real-world objects as your inspiration, surface-level themes can be detracted from, or not detracted, they can be extracted from that even by people who just don't play video games as a like you know, you're pretty familiar with video games, you play video games a lot, you're a frequent flyer. Even if you're not a frequent flyer, surface level themes should most likely stand out and help ease that, kind of like raise the temperature, not to burning or boiling point, but make it warm enough that it starts to flow for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and thank you for that clarification. Because I do think that is really important that we make sure that these things are fluid for our players. So yeah. Cool. Well, now I am kind of excited to get to this point. I'm a little sad that Roz had to go, but we will figure it out. So I did kind of talk about, not talk about, I did point out some real world concepts that I did write constructs. But these are some things that I've been thinking about. Specifically, we've already kind of done spirits and ghosts. I did start thinking about light and refraction with regards to crystals a bit more, and then we already kind of have color theory as well. Those are the main things that I've been thinking about with designing interactions. Annie, I know that you wrote out some more things. Can you kind of walk me through what you drew out here?
Dude, you actually want me to explain that?
Yeah?
Yes. All right. So, I took the, first of all, meaning of burning heart, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I have your Rube Goldberg machine where you take your burning heart, and for this purpose, it has been given the ability to move on its own, or mechanism has propelled it forward while it's still burning. Now, you have chaff in an isolate vacuum, which produces smoke. Above it, a Goldbergian turbine, which is positioned such that the midway point of the turbine is at the edge of either the left or right, I guess, tile, if we're going by movement in tiles. And so your burning heart, a literal burning heart, will ignite the chaff, produce the smoke, turn the turbine, and thereby activate the mechanism, which passes you through to the next part of the Goldbergian machine. The pipes to transport the heart are intended to be used in the mechanism viewed from all angles as an almost hamster sort of puzzle where a series of three-dimensional, transparent, overlapping pipes will obscure the player's vision to the heart, and as a result, it will be difficult to navigate, but not impossible, as each of the pipes leads either to an intersection where there's a free space and a path can be chosen. You might want to use like I don't know, for the sake of gameplay mechanics, you might want to have the heart defy gravity briefly until it chooses what pipe it wants to enter, and then to represent that aesthetically, have covers on the pipes that look almost like curtains, and you kind of push through the curtains with the heart and enter the pipe that way, so that way it doesn't look like, oh, it's just floating in the air, unless
Right.
you want
Yeah.
float in the air already. The traditional scale is meant to convey, if you've ever heard of the Egyptian belief that in death the heart is weighed against a feather and must be lighter or else you're going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the traditional scale. It's a barometer. I think the use of the term barometer is deprecated and should probably be replaced with the word parameter, but it is in the sense that we understand it, barometer of the player's progression. So the further in the game the player has progressed, the lighter your heart should be. I think that burning hearts should also be lighter than non-burning hearts. One, due to the potential loss of mass. Two, because burning kind of gives it a slight, not buoyancy, but like propulsion. Very, very light propulsion, and it will decrease not the mass. The mass decreasing is a separate property of a burning heart. The weight also decreases. Mass and weight are different because one factors for gravity.
You're talking about the physicist
The
scale?
physicist scale is, regardless of whether or not you're burning or not, your heart has a weight to it. And so the physicist scale is a simple fulcrum and platform. So you might, for example, have two paths. One path, you have to wait on the top end of the physicist scale and wait for the scale to adjust itself. And then if you want to go not on the bottom end and go on the top path instead, you would need to, well, maybe come back to the physicist scale, sit on the opposite side again, wait for it to drop down, and then just bomb rush the platform so that you can get up to the top one. So there's basically multi-path selection with the physicist scale.
What is the intended what's a good word for? I'm gonna say perception, or I guess understanding of what it means to have a heavy heart versus a light heart.
So when I hear the phrase heavy heart, I take it literally. I take it in the most common mannerism possible. That being when people say it is with a heavy heart. That, while being idiomatic, is meant to convey a sense of sorrow, grief, sadness, depending on the context. Either one of them could have heavy hearts, or if you have a burning heart, in contrast to a heavy heart, your burning heart is hearts on fire, passionate. You are not just hopeful, you've progressed past that. You're determined, you're tenacious. Burning heart, you have this sense of, I want to do this. And it's really, really fervent. It's very poignant. So to have a burning heart is to have a passion and a desire to do something, to feel a calling to it with a serious intensity. Whereas having a heavy heart means that one is steeped in their grief or sadness or contrite, whatever negative feelings they may have that don't relate to anger. That is what a heavy heart is.
Okay, what about a light one?
A light heart comes from someone who a light heart is an interesting concept because
I think of like calm, like sort of like serene, I guess.
you have to
Um,
choose it.
have to choose it. What do you mean?
You have to choose to be lighthearted because um, when you look at life in the world, everything is super scary and serious and bad. Uh, it's very heavy-handed, the truth and reality of the world. When you escape to like this mushroom land, I feel like you still have everything that's out there. Like it's still going to be there if you ever get back. You have to kind of choose to go, no, wait, I'm in mushroom land now. I'm talking to a flower man who is so old that his petals cover every part of his body except for the upper half of his face. I am going to put on my propeller hat, my overalls, and I'm going to grab my freaking rainbow lollipop and I'm going to ride this ride until it ends. So having a light heart means that you choose to be optimistic. Being lighthearted is an intentional choice, whether it's to yourself or it's to others. So while heavy-heartedness comes from something that has been experienced by you with such a negative and poignant intensity that it is almost incapable of being ignored by you, thereby heaviness being foisted upon your heart. Lightheartedness is something you can choose to put on or take off depending on how you want your outlook of the situation to be.
I'm liking this. And then I just put cold as like a cold heart would be indifference. Not necessarily malice, but like just like not caring necessarily. I think Blackheart would probably be Malice.
A cold heart and a black heart. That one I don't have to take as literally because people with black hearts usually are bound for death. So a black heart would be one thing is it's an interesting concept for Sir. Another thing that a black heart could be. Oh, nice! I'm grinding the rail as I'm doing this. Also,
I kind of fucking. What do you mean by grinding the rail?
playing another game called Project Cradle.
Oh, for real? Oh my god! Wait a second. Do I think I know that game. Cradle, right?
Project Cradle by Shazzy Soft.
Oh yeah, I fucking know that game. That's so funny.
So
Love Project
having a
Cradle.
cold and having a black heart. In the metaphorical sense, the thing that makes a cold heart different from a black heart is whether you're doing it passively or actively. So cold hearts are passive. Maybe the apathy for the things going on around them is something that has merely existed as a side effect to being constantly bombarded with lots of nasty shit that the world just naturally seems to have within itself. Whereas a black heart sees opportunity to make things better or change things for the better and actively refuses for reasons that could be malicious or selfish, etc. So they're different in the regard of the intention of the person wielding the heart. I sure hope I did not crash, by the way. It would be very uncool if oh, my internet's back. Okay, cool.
Okay, I'm gonna say we sit with that. So I did write that down. I do like the concept of like kind of showing emotion through the current state of the hearts. That's definitely something that we can play with. I also I think in this scenario it would be, well, I guess it could be both. Like the heart could be, you can have a heavy heart with it being inside of you. It doesn't necessarily have to be outside of the player to have that sort of state. So that is a really interesting sort of complex topic to work with. I definitely want to go through with thinking about that, especially in context of puzzles and things like that. But I do think that so I wonder, I don't know who did this. I don't know if this happened last meeting, but I'm really impressed with this sort of like puzzle map. But so I do want to go through and have some more objective things as well kind of placed down. So we do have our we already have our passive things of our different we have the mortal realm and astral realm. And then life tied to physical heart. And then I personally had some ideas for like, well, actually I'm gonna take a step back before we get to discovered actions. I wrote down item transportation as like a world interaction here, and then also like I do like the concept of Rube Goldberg machines. I do think that they're too complex for what we're currently trying to do. I think it to implement that on an actual like programmatic level would be a little too complex. I do like the concept of the rhythm.
You use an instrument, but honestly, if I were you, I would not use a piano or an ocarina. Figure something Don't go Guitar Hero with it either. That
These are ideas as well. These are not like set in stone. We're just kind of brainstorming right now.
one game that does rhythm really well and introduces people to rhythm games is Mario Wonder because it was a rhythm side scroller. Uh-oh. My internet.
Not
Oh,
the
never
internet.
Mario Wonder was like, here, play the game to the beat. Okay. And I did. I 100%ed the game.
Wait. What would you call? It's like purity. I think that's a good word. Purity.
The purity of one's heart is
Yeah.
actually the metric by which they measured the scale against the feather in the Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, I love that actually. And then submission. Like I'm breaking it now down into even more like and holders. Like you put something into another object, or have it hold it for you. We do have the concept of, well, what's it actually called? Oh goodness. Hello. Oh. What was it called? The chimera, what was that? What? Or the heart eater, whatever. The heart eater is like you submit a heart into it. I thought that was really cool. Also we have, the classic, like, you have the scales, and then the classic, like, levers, which would be like on or off, buttons, which are timed on and off. And then, what else do we have here? So then I was also thinking of, I guess, I'm thinking this with abilities and whatnot, but also I really am liking the concept of using light. And so last time I was starting to think about more like the sort of like engagements, the sort of like, if we were to like lean a little bit more into the Souls-like concept, what those weapons would look like, and like the violet would be a little bit more aggressive, and blue would be a little bit more defensive, but doing it in a way that is not. I feel like if we start moving into a more like medieval thing, it won't feel like good and proper, so therefore like swords and shields don't necessarily make sense. I do like the concept of using light, not necessarily, also just real quick, Mars, are you there by any chance? You just hanging out? Oh, you are there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I do want to hear your opinions as we're talking through this. But I'm thinking of like light as a general like world interaction. Like light could be shining through the trees or through the ceiling, and then we use like, I was thinking mirrors at first, but honestly I think something that would feel more grounded and earthy would just be crystals jutting out of the ground, and then having some sense of like refraction to different points, to get different things. You could have a white light hit a specific crystal, and then it'll split up into rainbow colors, and then you can like use different objects to reflect those colors into mixing with each other and becoming a different color, and or just doing the very bare minimum of doing just like literal light reflection onto an object, and then it activates things like that. And then on top of that, I was thinking we could have the players quite literally kind of charge up their abilities based off of light, um, and um, kind of like charge it with their hearts in a sort of way. Maybe they kind of just sit at a bench like fucking Hollow Knight and, you know, recharge their health is kind of what Hollow Knight does, but for us it could be abilities, um,
Hey, guy,
that sort of thing. Yeah.
have you ever considered this has never really been a thing in any game except for like Undertale? Um, have you considered having a cry button pop up at low ability meter and then having some checkpoints or safe spots in the level where your character can just sit and have a cry and actually recharges a meter?
You know, that's that's a good that's a good point. We could totally do that. I'm actually gonna say emotional outlet. Emotional outlet. Um, cry to heal. And then, or like, and then the other player could console or like cry with to heal faster or something like that. That could also play into adapting the heart's different states. So like maybe you're in a room where you have to be really aggressive, and your heart is slowly turning black, shadowy, and you need to like actually go ahead and like kind of process that. Or have just like gone through a really big boss battle fighting your inner demons, and you know start you like it's a more of a boost if you have like a burning sort of desire to push forward. Your attack abilities are a little bit more aggressive, and then as you use your attacks you start become more malignant, that sort of thing. I really like leaning into that concept, with like playing with emotions like that. um, I'm gonna rephrase this. I'm gonna say emotional outlet to affect abilities slash health. Cry to heal trauma. Bolster to increase passion, fight to increase malice. It's actually kind of fucking sick, actually. I think probably simplifying it down into like only a couple states to start, and then adapting out of that would be probably best. But I do I'm kind of fucking liking that. Okay, what else?
Yep.
World okay, world interactions is like could do like camera angle, to form puzzle. That's always cool. What else do we got here? We have the transportation. We also do have the concept of elements. I did write that down. Elemental interactions. Burning, freezing, that sort of thing. I do like the scales, the riddles, the rhythm-based codes. Yeah. Okay. I think I like this. I think I'm also gonna go ahead and try to like add to this a bit more. I do also want to start talking about emotional intentions for when we're creating emotional intentions for when we're creating actual levels. But I think from here I kind of want to sit with this and then over the next 2 weeks start doing more of a gray box of like kind of this more simple concepts of these and start implementing just like very, very basic just like it's like attacks and then like very basic puzzle, just like using the levers and buttons and item submission and maybe even scales. We could do scales and do a gray box and then start getting into a sort of mindset of iteration and finding what's fun and whatnot. I really want to see what Roz has worked on. I know that she said she had a list of like kind of items and puzzles that she drew out. I highly encourage you guys to also think of little puzzles and whatnot that you think would be really cool and write out what we would need to be able to do those. And then we can start really like comparing and contrasting and to design out pretty much a level, like our own unique level design rulebook as to like how we should go about developing our levels. Okay, I don't think I have much else to say, honestly. Eddie, you guys have any input?
I really liked the like Excel sheet that I took a screenshot of from the video and sent in the chat. When do we do that?
That's the next step after defining like our level design rule book. Is really just like we do need to figure out first like I think the first thing of a rule book is what is the intention, and then we start talking about defining goals, and then what does it look like for a boss encounter versus a puzzle encounter? How do we introduce the player to the level? What are the sort of highlighters as to like how we engage the player to give them like agency, and then after that is how have we dictated to the player what sort of actions they can take to fulfill that agency, and then how do we show the player like that they have completed it and they can move on to the next thing, and that's definitely what I want.
I feel like those things like go hand in hand maybe I just like the idea of having the structure, but like when in the spreadsheet you can like maybe we can do the theme or like the intention column first, because then like you have these like levels that you can. Man, words are hard.
Words are hard, yeah.
They can you can like look at the structure. I don't know.
You know what? I think you are right, actually. I think we can make this go hand in hand.
Because yeah, because like then you can space out the puzzles and bosses and new mechanics, like how often a new mechanic is introduced and or how it's used in the next levels. And I think it'd be kind of easier to see how to do that with the spreadsheet.
Right. I think part of the issue is that we're not entirely set on what those would be, on like what the new abilities would be and those bosses and
I guess
engagement. So like I understand the want for structure, but it's also like kind of hard when we haven't like come to a conclusion of like things we do want to include, you know?
Yeah. I guess I was kind of not saying anything because I feel like I need to. I would do it in the opposite direction, like make the puzzle and then see what it uses, and then if does that fit with the what we want in the game.
Well, that's kind of what I want to do, and that's what I come at this from an actual like I'm just gonna build the fucking thing in Unity and then see if I like it. I know other people operate in a different way, but so it just looks a bit different. Like, but I like that's kind of what Roz did over the last 2 weeks is just like build out the puzzle, and then what do we need for it. And I'm gonna try to ask her to give like screenshots and like her list of things that she wanted for those puzzles, and then implement that. And that's the sort of direction that I want to move into. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then if it has like too many mechanics, then we can cut down on that or like change it.
Exactly, yeah. It's just for me personally, the way that I do it is I just implemented it in Unity. Like I'm not scared to just like iterate inside of Unity.
Yeah.
It is actually more fun for me. Which is why I have so many resources, is because I just fucking dump all my shit in there and then I'll decide whether or not I actually am going to use it. But like today's, like I made the first door today.
Oh my god.
Finally got to that point. I spent thanks. I spent the last week dealing with updating the way that our sensors work. But today I was just playing, like really putting that back together, and then using the like interaction system that's in there to set up a good old door. It was nice and easy. All I had to do was turn the door on and off. And here, I'm gonna show it real quick. Switch.
Maybe it's the artist in me because I'm really not a game designer, but no, I like the idea of having an idea of the level themes first, and then I feel like that's a good base for thinking of a puzzle. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, that's why I've had us kind of do a very general sort of thing. Like we do have level themes. This is why we have the Miro, so we can go back and look at the original concepts, you know, like you did. You know, you did your rooms and whatnot, and we still have the crying child and the mushroom forest, and then in the last one we had all of Roz's ideas here. So like this is where we are at the point of just like, I like this, and you know what, fuck it, I'm making a puzzle in here and I'm not gonna ask for permission. Like if you like something and want to see it in the game, it is fully to your agency to go ahead and be
Mhm.
like, fuck it, I like the concept of a spider area. What does a spider engagement and or puzzle look like? Let me go ahead and draw that up, you know?
Yeah, it's just like I want to have an idea of the environments and what order they're in, because like say you have a spider thing, but there's, I guess spiders can go anywhere.
Well, that's kind
I
of
guess
what
I'm scared is like, what if
that's
you make something and it doesn't fit in any of the environments?
we can
I guess
always
you can change
make
it,
it fit. So that's the one big thing I
Yeah.
want to have us take away from, especially those like lectures that we had today. I'm gonna put this back on the screen. This thing here is, first of all, we're finishing the first level last, and what that actually means is we are finding the fun of the game. We're just designing shit, and then whatever at the end of the day or end of development, right, literally right before we like release the game, we are going to take a look at all of the different sections of the game and take note of all of the abilities that we have, and then spend like a week just doing the tutorial and the intro part, so that you know, we're introducing our player to what we've built. It's actually
sense.
probably better for us to develop the most complex like interactions and like boss first. So I'm not even worried about like trying to figure out what order things fit in. That order will be figured out as we go ahead and develop things. And then
Okay.
also we need to find the fun. Like we need to go ahead and like have those ideas and those implementations and concepts built up first, so that we can actually implement them and decide what is fun and what isn't, what makes sense, so that we can figure out if it even does make sense to fit in. We could totally work on, and this is also why I kind of highlighted the beautiful corners, you know, concept. We don't need to make an entire level that is fully artistically implemented. We can just do a corner that, you know, has one concept of each asset that maybe will go in this area, to see if it looks good and it makes sense for the rest of the game, before we actually like pull the trigger and do the rest. So yeah, I understand the want for structure, but especially as an indie team, especially without like dealing with higher ups telling us exactly how things are supposed to be, we do need to go ahead and do some iteration, some sort of design messiness to kind of figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I was just thinking about how we will have a certain number of areas, and say there's like 5. It would be cool to have like forest, school, lake, blah 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 blah, and then put stuff in there, and then have, you know, like transitional areas.
Well, if we're aiming to have 5 areas, we should make 10 first.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right? Like, that's kind of what I mean, is like, we should not go ahead and make try to make the final decisions first. And like be like, okay, these are the 5 levels that we have, let's kind of make them work. No, let's go ahead and make 10 concepts, try to do basic implementations of them, and see which ones we fucking hate. Like, and that's kind of what a lot of our like brainstorming is like, we're gonna brainstorm and then we'll go ahead and look back and be like, well, this seems fun to do. Also, emphasis on fun to do. The big thing is like, what is actually engaging for us to actually work on. That is a lot more important than anything, actually.
Can we
Yeah.
Can we do that now? Can we think of 10 ideas for areas?
Yeah. I mean, I do think that we already have some
We
sort
already
of
have
a list,
some.
but fuck yeah, let's do it. I'm down.
Okay.
Let me.
I have no access to the mirror, so I'm just gonna write it on my drawing.
No, that's fine. Here, let me. Actually, first before we do that, just since I have it up, I'm streaming the game right
Oh yeah,
now.
show me your door. Oh my god.
Look at my
Door
door.
time.
Look at this shit.
It's so beautiful.
Wow,
It's so thick.
crazy. Hell yeah.
Nice.
Damn, girl, your
through
door
the
thick as
door.
hell.
And now I do the thing and I can go through the door. Wow, crazy
So
things right
beautiful.
now. Yep. But that whole thing is set up with this interactable and the toggle thing, and it's just like
Why is blue twerking off in the
just
corner?
don't worry about what blue is doing
Okay,
right
what?
now.
I didn't say anything. even.
I also do have this like little basic attack animation in here. Yeah.
Wow, it's so
Yeah.
pretty.
Also, I do
Violet-
have it so we can. I do have that blue interaction. Also, the camera is we're doing kind of isometric, and I kind of like it a
Violet
little bit better. Violet
Swing her arm up to the side in the direction of the swoon, so that way it looks like Violet's actually swiping out each time.
You know, I believe you're right. I currently don't care, to be blunt. I know I don't want to worry about animations right now.
Not there yet.
We're not there yet. I am just happy that it works and it actually hits entities when it hits entities. That is it. I've already thought about that. And also part of it is first of all, I've already kind of come to the assumption that right now the game is really just going to be those chibi characters, and I'm like not entirely opposed with that. It just kind of comes down to actually something that they talked about in the lectures is what are our skills limitations, and at the end of the day, right now I'm focused on getting a game that works, not necessarily having a game with like really cool clean animations. So we can have very low quality sort of models in the actual game, and then we can really lean in on 2D assets if we really wanted to. I feel like that might even play into our strong suits a bit more. But
I feel like your animation was good though. Like the walking one I saw.
oh, thank you.
I think you could do it.
I think I could do it too. I'm also kind of holding that off to the side as one of those like cherries for me to be like, all right, I did the boring stuff. Now I could go do cool, fun art things. You know?
Yeah, that's fair.
That's kind of, and that's why I haven't done any 3D models yet. As much as I really want to, just be doing 3D models right now. It'd be so fun. But I am not. I'm holding.
You can't
it off
only
to the
eat
side.
cookies.
Right, exactly.
You gotta have
That's-
some vegetables.
Yes, exactly. And that is kind of the solo dev mindset. It's just like,
Yeah.
literally was just watching, first of all, this is my entire personality, so it's all I watch. But literally just watching or listening to like a podcast of an indie dev talking about like doing like 2 to 3 things that the game absolutely needs, and then doing one thing that is fun and silly for you. And my last one thing was the little swoosh and the shader effect for the attack. That was my one thing. I am almost at another one thing, but the next thing that I need to do is the gray box. I need to do a puzzle gray box so we can actually start doing this shit. But anyways, okay, let me make sure the streams are set up. Oh, I stopped streaming. Okay, so let's do it. Let's do like a good
I have 4.
period.
Period.
Okay, let me make some space. And then we're gonna do
Ooh, a cave area.
level.
I'm just gonna sneak in my entire game concept
No, literally.
into one of your area levels.
No, literally do it. Like that is exactly.
No, I'm saving it. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna make it.
You're so
but
funny.
I'm saving it.
You're so funny. Okay.
I don't know how to code.
I am here to listen to your input so that we can make
Yeah.
your ideas a reality. So if you don't pitch them,
Aw.
then I'm not gonna
No,
be
no,
able to do it. I'm just gonna make fucking decisions, Mars. I'm
I was
just gonna
kidding.
do
I'm not
it.
putting my game in your game. That's my game.
Okay. Just let
It's
it
mine.
be. Okay.
Fine.
Then you code it then.
No.
All right. What are your ideas? What are your concepts?
Okay, so the flower forest.
Yes, I do like the flower forest. Mm-hmm. Okay.
The scary forest,
Scary forest.
which
What is that? Is that like more Halloween-ish, like gothic?
it's I can send to one of the.
Oh.
It's like a where and then sub note like indented lake, crying child, parentheses.
Oh.
The-
Yeah.
Oh, drowned in the lake.
Oh.
Maybe it's just where the reflection is. You know how the
Mhm.
reflection. She's just on a lake. That's just where she lives.
You should put that there that she drowned.
She drowned.
She
That would
could.
be spooky lore, actually.
Okay, this was just one of my things when I was drawing what I find scary. One of the things I find most scary is fucking these kind of dolls.
I was
Like
literally
this
thinking about dolls
old
today. Oh, that's
dolls.
something that I
Like
didn't
they
write down.
are
Was like
so
dolls and-
scary. I hate them.
I'm actually gonna it was like dolls and threads.
Yeah, so
Are you thinking
like
like
this is one of the things
doll,
that could go in the scary forest.
like in the scary forest? Okay.
Also, can we like I cooked with these trees a little bit.
Oh, you
I used to be
fucking
so bad at drawing
did.
trees.
They look so good.
Okay, then abandoned boarding school. We haven't done anything with this, but I want it.
No, I really like it. And
This is where scary teacher will go. Her, Miss Girl.
Miss Girl.
And then steampunk sewer,
Steampunk sewer. Yep.
subnote beetle. That's where he lives.
Okay.
That's all I had so far.
Cool.
Did I miss anything?
Well, yeah, so there's also, oh, yeah, so Roz has, like, it was, like, constant fire.
Like hell?
Mm-hmm.
Get in the car, go to hell.
And like ruins and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like Candyland, honestly. But I also like Dead Religion.
What does that mean?
It's a good question.
Okay. That feels like where are they living? Ruins? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like ruins.
I'm already I can't help it, but I just see the transitions and like the flower forest turns into a scary forest, turns into the boarding school, turns into the ruins, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess that's for later.
But like I said, we gotta make more than that.
Yeah.
Fair
enough.
Gonna say, I do like the concept of, yeah, like a cave area. with I'm gonna do a self insert here of Crystal Cave. I would like to see that. Spiders. I also like the concept of moths as well.
I
Moths
love
and
moths.
butterflies being used in this. Just in the game in general. Because of transformation allegories, things like that.
Mhm.
I would even go to a point of like, I'm actually going to write this down over in actions and abilities is cocoon to grow wings.
I feel like that's like the last ability you would get.
Which would be fucking
Like-
sick, actually.
Yeah. Final form. You go back and you're like to a place where you're like, how the fuck do I get up there? And then you get the wings and you're like, oh, I just fly. Okay.
Exactly, right? Final form, transformation.
I'm gonna put my concepts for my cave game, but only for inspo. Only for inspo.
Only for inspo, not for stealing.
No steal. Mine.
Um,
I'm really proud of them though. I can make more caves. These are just 4 caves.
yeah, they're just literally just caves.
As you can see, I like to make a cave. How many is that?
Queen,
7?
Hearts, castle.
These are like, oh, okay, castle. I was gonna
Um,
say, where does she live? Obviously, the castle.
I also still like being attached a bit to the narratives of Alice in Wonderland as well, which is kind of why I
Yeah.
have Crystal Cave, because like this would generally be like the caterpillar, and then having the queen is this the fucking queen.
What?
Also, we were talking about, engaging with cats and things, and I still like that
Yeah.
concept as a passive thing, or just a world interaction, which I'm actually going to go ahead and add here, is animal interactions. Animals. Do you remember off the top of your head what the cats were supposed to do? I know you drew these out, but I don't think we actually wrote down their.
I think it was like a manifestation of Violet's guilt that's following her around, and it's her own brain that's making the cat seem scary, because at the end when she like accepts that Blue is dead, then the cat turns cute and fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
And then like your grief, it can become like a companion that doesn't scare you anymore once you
Right.
face it.
I like that. Cat. Be manifestations of guilt. Scary. First. But cute. When accepted.
Scott,
Mm-hmm.
do you think Violet is a scene girl?
On the inside,
I
maybe.
think yes. That's exactly actually. I think Violet wants to be like an edgy scene girl so bad, but her parents won't fucking let her because she has to be so prim and proper and like the perfect woman and perfect little girl. Has to be
When-
top of her class, and all that pressure mounts to like at a point where real like identity is literally just being like a raging punk scene girl lesbian. Like like that's exactly how I view Violet.
Her 3 stages, she is how she is in this game, and then when she goes to high school, she like brings her scene clothes and makeup and changes in the bathroom and then wipes it off before going home. And then in college, she's just like, fuck it, I'm like this all the time. I'm emo.
I love that.
Deal with it.
Oh my god, what? They're actually also furries.
What the hell?
Little cat ears headband.
Stop.
I'm also just writing out some other like concepts of animals. Station.
What if there was like an ocean? I've been weirdly obsessed with
that is a good
Mario Kart World level Wario's Shipyard. Like the aesthetic is so peak.
Yeah. I'm actually down. I am down for an ocean level. You like talking about like on the beach or under like in the ocean?
I don't know.
Of manipulation. Toxicity.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It's like this ghostly, haunted, abandoned.
Oh, fuck yeah!
Shipyard.
Actually, Alice Madness Returns totally has something that looks like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Snakes, and then we have
stealing it.
Cat, rabbit, snakes. What the
butterflies?
Yeah, I was gonna like moths, butterflies. I was gonna put innocence, and then it was caterpillars. Is that how you spell caterpillars? I think so. I was gonna put fucking laziness, but I actually don't know if I would want. I'm gonna put innocence and purity. Oh, not purity. Let's do instead of innocence. I like leaning more into self-actualization. Look at that. And then we're gonna do insecurity for caterpillars. Insecurity, self-growth, self-investment. Cool. Okay, back to. I'm gonna make these bigger.
So, yeah. For the ocean, either I don't think we should swim. So I think it's either like you're on the beach or you can walk underwater, like on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know which.
I would like to do an ocean level. I don't think I can figure out how to justify it. I think that's where I come to is like, what the fuck is gonna, like, what actual, like, entities would be at a fucking ocean level?
It's a trick level where Blue goes, Violet, you're suffocating me, and now you're underwater with limited chances to breathe.
Oh, uh-huh.
For entities, you could do Sacabambaspis, which is the fish with really small eyes and a very small face.
Yeah. I think part of it is. I think part of it. is also... Fuck. Well, I guess no. I take it back because Alice Madness Returns actually doesn't like have. I think you are underwater, but you still have gravity. Like gravity doesn't change. I was gonna say that there's the the expectation of just like general like water physics, you know, but not necessarily. We don't have to make it that way.
Nah. I kind of like it. You just walk on the floor. We already did. We walk on top of the water for the lake.
Fuck it, yeah.
Crying giants.
Let's just do underwater. Let's do
I mean, you could write
I was gonna
it
put
down, and we don't have to do anything.
right,
with it.
exactly. It's literally just an idea. I'm gonna do underwater city.
Oh, Atlantis vibes.
Mm-hmm. Let's do town. Maybe not like full, like you know, like.
I don't think we have the budget for a
I don't
whole
think we
city.
have the budget. No.
Maybe just a town.
Maybe just a town.
Maybe a barren snow wasteland.
Yeah.
I played Neva recently, and this whole studios thing is just making the most beautiful games ever, where every single frame is you can screenshot and use it as a background. And their snow levels are so like the vibes of depression go hard as hell. I love it. Even though I'm the opposite in real life, I love snow and winter. But in these games, they fuck hard. I played it once and I have 300 screenshots.
Oh my god.
I played their first game and
yeah.
I was like, I'm not making the same mistake of not taking enough screenshots with this one. I'm not taking no chances. Oh my god, this game is so beautiful. Let me send a few.
Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
More.
Well, let's sit with 11. I like 11.
Okay.
Okay. How about this? So kind of using. So we've done some like brainstorming of fucking the violet thing. We've done our brainstorming. There are some limitations that we've already agreed upon. Whoa, those are sick, actually. What the fuck? So there are some limitations that we've already agreed upon. Like we already know, how like our life cycle basically for the characters, right? Like let's not like mess with that. Like definitely should be like if we really want to punish if we're doing punishments for players for not doing something right, you know, we'll kill them once and give them their second chance in the astral realm, that sort of thing. Like let's not play with that formula, but can the three of us choose one of these level concepts and then make a puzzle for it? And work on that individually for the next 2 weeks, and then come back and talk about our concepts and ideas. Does that sound feasible?
That could troll me.
Yeah,
I've never made a puzzle.
I believe in you. I mean, you have really good ideas, Mars. Thanks.
Thanks.
Actually, believe it or not, I don't think I've ever really made a puzzle before either. I'm not really. I say puzzle, but I don't necessarily mean puzzle. I mean like just like thinking about how that level would look and like really thinking about well, so this is kind of what I mean by making like a guideline. And you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna off the top, we can refine this now, but I'm gonna we can refine this later, but I want to just have a good baseline so that we can all have something to work with. First and foremost, so I'm gonna do level design guide. So first and foremost, for making our levels, the biggest thing is name an emotion you want each player to experience. We're gonna make that big. So that can be for either both violet and blue, or them individually. So you can start off with, example could be it would be violet experiences guilt, and then blue experiences acceptance. I don't have a fucking plan for these. I threw these out just like out of my ass, pretty much. Just like, let's just start with this and see what we can get, and then so that is first and foremost. You got to start with that, because then we can start like looking at all this brainstorming and all the stuff that we put out and like, okay, how do we get to those points? So we're gonna do that, and then we're going to choose what the fuck you, why are you doing that?
It's so annoying.
Oh my god, why you, what the fuck? Stupid
Idiot.
Determine setting and implications of environment. So for this one, let's see. I'm not gonna take Scary Forest from you. Let's do.
I was gonna do boarding school.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I will take Scary Forest. Let's see. Do I want this?
You can take it. It doesn't belong to me.
Well, I'm not gonna like. I just want to get a good like. You know what? Honestly, I'm leaning towards
You don't wanna
Dead.
do the same
I'm
one?
kind of leaning towards Dead Religion. And Cult. So we're gonna just do.
I'm interested in what that would look like because I don't think that's been mentioned before.
It was actually written out in Roz's suggestions from last meeting, which is why I love this mirror board. And then what else did I write here? So let's be that, and then okay. So then. We're going to so implement so that's our so it actually would be, so I'm thinking of we have our let's do ruins, so this is going to be somewhat scary, but has hidden powers. I'm going to lean into let's do. I still like the light and the crystals idea, so I'm gonna just say let's do. This is a little like. Purple crystal cult, whatever. Cult difficult.
Delicious purple crystal.
Let's do moth. Symbolism. And then we're gonna just do our basic. Yeah, let's start with that, and then honestly, from here, I would start drawing things out. So I could sketch some things real quick. I was thinking like some ruins here, and there's maybe a little like fountain, very fucking Meet the Rookie vibes.
Fountain.
Right.
Back to haunt me.
Oh god, right. With the honestly, I didn't realize that I was fucking doing this until I drew the fountain. I was like, oh, this is literally just Meet the Rookie. But like, I'm thinking of like honestly the center of a village. Maybe here is like the church with the big bell, ding dong, ding dong.
What about Church with a little big bell?
Right.
Wait, are they American? Violet and Blue?
That's a good fucking question. I still don't know.
Because
honestly, I've been kind of thinking of them as British.
Me too, because I just realized, like, wait, boarding schools is like more of a British.
More of a British thing, right? Like,
and then you said like you have a castle, you have tower bells. Like,
right,
we don't have those things.
We don't have those things. So like, I'm definitely English, European, sort of like, yeah. So
the realization. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
They're British.
They're British, actually. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Which is also kind of funny thinking about like I was thinking about medieval things. As well. They're fucking British, man. God damn.
Totally. Hey,
so...
it doesn't. You don't choose to be British. It just happens to you.
Oh my god. So this is the little town. There's the tree back here. You know, let's start doing the sketches of like, all right, what are they? What this is kind of starting to think about, especially our. What do they observe? What does the player observe? At first, and can infer from that observation. This is actually also a really good exercise for me as well. Love having these meetings, actually. Okay, so can I fucking highlight this? Let's. Yeah. So my statements to that. Sorry, what? Yeah.
Nothing.
So my statements to that would be, I'm just gonna start drawing things. We're gonna say this church has, we have our moth. Oh, Jesus Christ. Let's put it here. Moth. And then the water in here is like glowing purple.
Actually, I do have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
So the next game, it's like what is the next game?
Light in the Dark.
Yeah, there's like it's a computer virus, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, should there be a level in here that's like kind of foreshadowing, or maybe it's just like a small section?
What I was kind of thinking was, I did write this out in, I think it was like general ideas. I think that honestly the overall arcing thing, like narrative, should be the same, but I do think that there should be like an implication at the end of the game that there is a malicious being out there that was actually like helping induce that sort of, like, it didn't just like happen. I do think like the forest is magical, but I do think that there's like external force that is causing that magic, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And therefore I would say like some sort of being, whatnot, and then that being would actually like bleed into because its intentions are to like basically feed off of like fucking emotional crises and like raw like energy that comes from humans. They like don't necessarily want to eat like and consume what the humans, they want to consume that sort of energy that is output when we feel something strongly, and therefore it leaks into this sort of like controlling capitalist machine that literally does that and is handmade or man-made, but it adds like magical properties to it and leaks into the like code for the virus and stuff like that. And then we have like a sort of and overarching like big bad that we can lean into that is implied to in this game but isn't necessarily addressed till later. That's kind of where I've been sitting as of the last couple months. Yeah. So it doesn't really change much about this, but it definitely gives like a nice stepping stone to the next project.
Okay. Because I definitely think there should be some sort of foreshadowing. I'm not sure how we would do the overarching big bad. Like at the very least, I think it should be like an end credit scene.
That's what I'm thinking.
Happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can always like add more things later, but very like bare minimum would be end credit scene.
Even just like small things in the background, I think would be good.
Weird purple water.
I think you mean water.
Water.
What?
I'm gonna say that there's ghostly reflections, or like not reflections, ghostly apparitions. Weird. I'm gonna say weird purple water should infer that I'm gonna actually, we're gonna, and also part of this is that you're like kind of watching my thought process of like justifying these decisions right now, which is why it's good to have this structure instead of just weird, because that is very vague. Let's just do magical. And therefore, you know, it has sparkles now. You know, there's just a little like we want the player to notice this a bit more. It's magical purple water that does some weird physics things. So therefore, we want the player to infer that this like the hidden powers. Hidden powers.
Will there be like you can interact with an object and it gives you details?
Sorry, say it again.
Will there be like you interact with an object and it gives you details?
There can be. That is something that is actually would be really easy to implement because that dialogue system just exists. So,
secondary question: are there jokes in this game?
Are there jokes in this game? Yes, there's jokes in this game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it doesn't fit with the tone.
Magic. No, I think there should be jokes in this game.
Okay, because like, what if it's like you click on the water and it's like you taste it and it tastes like something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Definitely.
I can't be funny on purpose. Something funny.
Yeah, something funny.
Insert funny joke.
And astral interactions. Then there's the ruined houses. Something bad happened. And they're explorable. I'm gonna say explore to discover more. And then we have our big church tower, which would be our main focal point. The players initial goal. So like I'm assuming, or like not necessarily assuming, we are designing to have this sort of interaction. So the way that this world is set up, and I actually I drew these squiggles in, but it's literally like we have this sort of V shape, right? So we are alluding to the player that we want them to go into this direction towards the actual church, right? And ideally, like, you know, on the side they go and explore other things, but the main thing is that we have, you know, the main observations that they can make is that there are some weird things going on. There are little like sideways that you can go explore, but the main direction that you want to go is towards the church, and this is where you're going to start your engagement, start getting answers, that sort of thing. Yeah, so then that's where we start, and then we can start talking about the actual like sort of experience. So the next thing is agency. So I did kind of touch on this, but these are the inferences. Now I'm gonna talk about agency here. I did just mention that, but it's good to put it into words. What can the player do next? And I'm gonna go ahead and say we're gonna do explore houses, find clues and info, go into astral. Maybe the water is poisonous. So we assume that the player is going to go up and try to interact with it and see what can happen, and they'll find that as soon as you jump into it, boom, you're in your astral form, and your heart's just like free. It's like, what the fuck? God damn it! Going to astral, engage. This means that discover magic properties. And actually right there is our first interaction. I like right off the top of my head, jumping into purple magic stuff. I don't really want to call it water. I want to call it like more like light reflections and like a, you know, whatever. But I guess right now I'll just call her. Let's just do like
Goop.
like not goop, because this isn't Meet the Rookie. I'll do potion. Makes forces you into astral.
I love goop.
So then this also gives us a problem. Is like, how do we go back into mortal form? And let's go ahead and solve that issue. So I'm gonna just point out, because we have this limitation, therefore we can infer, okay, this is going to be a problem, because I know that at a certain point I need to get back to fucking mortal form. So how are we going to solve that? Maybe we have solved that in an overall arcing thing of the game, but we haven't fucking made that yet. So let's just make some shit up right now. So problem. Actually, I'm gonna do this red. Problem. How to mortal form. And then we solve that here. That's going to be let's do fucking, it's either let's do like a clerical resurrection sort of thing. We could do either actually, so we ideally your heart ideally is not in the potion. That's a whole nother thing. Have the heart actually drop up. Let's do actually I'm gonna say astral chieftain, cult leader. Let's do cult leader. Can resurrect you. Cool. This is also there's some problems with that are coming to mind, but honestly, just gonna leave that nice and vague. We'll come back to that. Go to astral, explore the houses, and we're also going to go into the church. Continue. Progress. Now, I would say this is probably the first setting of this level. So this is like our entrance. Let's say that we need to like actually kind of define out what this church looks like. So I'm just gonna draw this out and change it later. It's always good to just start. But this is our entrance here. And let's say, fuck it. You know what? First thing that came to mind was let's just have a goddamn river or like kind of a waterfall flowing through this. So I'm going to say waterfall originates from, I'm going to say that there's a temple on the second floor, whatever, something like that. So let's just say waterfall is here. And we're going to just have it go to this.
Good book. You need lots of good books. The good book. Big brown.
You are cutting in and out. I cannot tell what you're saying. Try again. Maybe not.
It's the most you could have in a church.
Oh, books? Is that what you're saying? Like books in a church?
Big books in my church.
Big books in my church. Me when I have
S-P.
Annie, your voice is like
your
voice is like cutting in and out. You might want to actually type it out in EC chat.
Oh no. No. God damn it.
No. So what is the sort of ability that I want to teach here? I think that so actually this kind of goes back to guilt and acceptance. You know what? I think it's kind of funny that I made it all purple because I feel like the acceptance should be blue. So it would be cool if all the colors were blue as well. But we're gonna just keep playing with this. So what is something that blue is better at than violet?
Yeah.
Or be able to like engage with more. I think it would probably be protection, self preservation, maybe. So I'm gonna start leaning into kind of well, let me make sure that I'm following my little actions. So I'm gonna lean into violet is better at attacking, blue is better at defending, that sort of thing. And we're actually gonna say that this should be a totally different color than purple. It's gonna be confusing, but this is exactly why we have these, like, you start thinking through this sort of stuff. So I'm gonna say that the this magical is actually not what forces you into to astral. We're gonna take that back. I'm gonna say it fucking kills you instantly. It's like poison.
Oh my. I think I need to go soon.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm getting pretty hungry.
I'm gonna try to finish.
I don't know why.
Finish this up
but
really
Miro,
quick, but sorry, what?
I sent a request. I don't know why Miro is being weird.
What the fuck?
And said I didn't have access.
Weird. Can you look at the forum directory in Discord and click that link and see if that helps? Because that should just like invite you inherently. Is that what you clicked on?
Okay. No, let me try that.
Insta kills you. And I'm gonna take this back. The only way to progress is by Blue's ability to actually. Oh, I just saw you join. Hell yeah.
Yay.
So our problem now is this is actually our obstacle. And there are going to be a couple ways to solve this. Now, I said liquid, but I was also kind of thinking light beams, so I might come back and change that. But for right now, let's just say liquid. So right now, fuck it. I'm not even going to consider the the actual like justification as to why this works, but and like why there's a fucking river in the church, but we will come back to that later. Now I get to actually think about the puzzle.
It looks cool. That's all the reason you need.
The river in the church is for aura purposes.
Right. It's literally. It's like ripped in half, kind of, by this like magic that
Before
is
you start
brewing out
talking
of
about
it.
puzzles, I got a few things. One, this church area level world would go great with a chapel. If you could write that somewhere, because I put my laptop away because I'm trying to get ready for bed.
Yeah, I do have a chapel here. I was calling it a church, but there's definitely a chapel.
All right, so now, contextually and historically, churches really did not have that many books. They had one book in countless variations, and they also had, at times, very rarely, supporting texts that go with the big book. So, if you like, you can also make note of a big brown book, because, one, it would be historically accurate and it would reinforce the sort of religious boarding school notions, and two,
I like having big brown books in my church. It's the most fun you could have in a church.
Okay, I love it. That's leaning into aesthetic things a little bit too quick for me right now. I am definitely just thinking about puzzles. You could totally add books into the chapel. That's perfectly fine.
Big books. It's the most you could have.
I was actually thinking about we could totally have like bookshelves. This is a bookshelf.
Mostly empty bookshelves. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Bookshelf.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Where should I put my puzzle? Like over here, is that okay?
Yeah, like just make a you could do that. You could also make a new frame for yourself. Or I could do it for you if you want. But it's just make a new space on the whiteboard that isn't already being used somewhere, and then
I feel like we should have a puzzle board with all the puzzles on it.
I mean, yes, but I worry about them like overlapping and whatnot. Like, just kind of do it in like an actual frame.
I will make my own then.
Yeah, and then we'll go back and organize them later.
Okay. I leave now.
Okay.
Oh.
Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. Bye. I'm gonna keep talking and working through this if you wanted to look back to it. So, but yeah. Oh my goodness, it is 11.
Guy.
Yeah.
What if your bell tower didn't have a bell? And what if none of the church rooms had windows? With the lack of windows representing a sense of isolation brought on by the dogmatic, rigid upbringing.
I mean, yeah, we could do that. I think that...
You can't call help, you can't escape either.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I like it. It's also just like it's too leaning in aesthetic at this point for right now. I'm like still thinking very logically about this and this encounter.
Let me peek into your brain and see what you're thinking logically about it. What's the most recent thing you've written? Oh, insta kills you.
What do you mean by that?
Pick your brain. You're thinking mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I got nothing.
What do you mean by written? Like short story or something?
No, you wrote insta kills you.
Oh, yes, I wrote insta kills you, and then I'm like writing out this like, sort of level concept of Oh, fuck. Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm now thinking of, so here my actions are, I spelled agency wrong. Agency, what can the player do next? Go in the church. Blue, bubbles, violet, to avoid death, violet has to help blue cross. That, and then I think I've come across my conclusion. So we have our actions. This is agency, and then we have our actions. Actions. So we have actions, which is what actions can the player take to progress? You can totally go in and add like different entities and things to this later to justify things, but right now this is just like basic environment puzzles and stuff like that. And then, so we're just gonna just stick with that. That's our basic like interaction, and then I can play on top of that and make it more complex. And then our completion, I'm gonna call it like completion, and then, actually, I'm gonna blow this up. This is, oh. To avoid death by potion river. Violet has to help Blue Cross. And then what is our resolution? Resolution. Completion. What do the players discover? And I think it's just like and realize. And I think in this case it would be that Blue is the only one who can save the trapped villagers. Violet's independence. And abilities were no help. Were little help. Blue is able to contain the liquid and relate to the contain the liquid and de-radicalize the priest, healing village. And then we'll come to like let's give Blue a new ability. Let's say fucking I don't know, something liquid based, or like it could be like this sort of, I'm kind of thinking like the like an empathetic sort of like not an empathetic, it's like empathic abilities, like fucking Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy. Blue unlocks empathic abilities which helps, which let's just say like transfers emotions from others to her own heart. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is a perfect description of how the fuck to kind of walk through this and take a concept and kind of like iterate and get like a good template of how to make a good prompt for level design. And then you can go through and then expand on this and make more puzzles with it. But like we come from the like initial interaction experience that we want the players to have. Take a setting, make up some shit, try to justify it, give some agency, give some actions, and then come to a resolution and a completion for our players. Fuck yeah. I'm actually really happy with that. So yeah, I'm gonna clean this up just a little bit. I do want this. This and then that. And then I'm gonna get rid of this. Annie, do you have any questions or like observations about this that you want to make?
My brain's empty.
No, so for real, it is actually so late. I'm actually kind of surprised that I threw this together. Level design guide / example. Okay, all right.
Today I wrote a bunch of riddles and designed several puzzle mechanics.
Hell yeah, you did.
I have no idea what I'm gonna do tomorrow.
Well, so that's actually like where I wanna like so our next steps is I would like let's like take our casual 2 weeks to do this. But when you have free time, I'd love to see your implementation of one of these settings and a level concept that kind of follows this sort of format here, so that we can start moving forward and sort of seeing what works and what doesn't. So like we made this list. I'm actually gonna make this its own frame, and I'm gonna put it in here. Hello. Why is it all the way down there? God damn. So weird. Blow this up.
I need the full picture of the steps 1 through 5.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna actually, I'll take a screenshot of it and put it in the Discord and like at
You could
everybody.
also send it to me directly because then I could just start making stuff.
You can't look at the Discord for it?
It's already in the Discord.
I'm gonna take a picture of this Mira board and then put it as a picture in the Discord. To use for ideation. Okay, cool.
I got poltergeisted.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say that's it. Thank you so much for coming today. That was very productive. I'm very happy with that. And then yeah, I'll go ahead and send a screenshot of this to the design discussion and add everybody as like this is our next steps into working on Project Heart.
You're welcome.
Okay, Cool. Have a good night.